Hello again, and welcome to another episode of COVID-19 Work from Home Tips, episode number 15. I am Dr. Melissa Tranquille. I'm so excited to be here. It's a pleasure, it's an honor to be here presenting to you guys once again. Now, many persons are already working from home and have been for quite a while, and some of you are new to working from home. And perhaps you've started working from home and then you begin to realize, oh, my Wi-Fi signal is so poor, or I think I prefer to get a laptop and not have a computer so that I can have more flexibility in terms of where and how I work. So today we're going to talk about some must-have items for working from home. And I basically just have it in two categories, the hardware items and the software items. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. And if there's something that I did not mention, feel free to mention it in the comments, something that you use as a must-have item to make your work from home experience one that is less stressful, more productive, and more joyous. And first of all, the first thing that you definitely need is a designated office space. You need to have that designated area that is assigned to work. That's where you store your files, that's where you store your work items, your tools, your resources, whatever it is that you need as it relates to come performing your task or performing that job. So you must have that designated workspace. And even though you may work, for instance, you may work outside one day, or you may work in another room another day, or perhaps you may work at a cafe. But having that designated workspace tends to give you some order in your mind and some focus in your mind. So I know, well, okay, for me, I need to go get X files. I know to go to my office, my designated office space, because it will be there. So it helps give you that order, in your mind, and takes away any anxiety or stress or frustration that could come with not having a place that you call your work area. So that's the first must-have I would put at the top of my list, is to have that designated office area. Do excuse me because I have a slight cold today. And then another must-have item is, now there are some persons who prefer having a desktop, like my husband. He prefers having a desktop. And maybe it's because where he works, he has a desktop. So for years, he's just gotten accustomed to it. And he feels much more confident, much more comfortable working, sitting at his desktop. Whereas for me, I detest the desktop and I love having a laptop. So another must-have item is, you got to figure out what works best for you. What works best for you, whether you want to have a desktop in your designated work area, or whether you just want to have a laptop so that you are free to work anywhere you choose, because the laptop gives you some flexibility. The only disadvantage I would say with the laptop is that it sometimes can cause us to have a bad posture without even realizing that we have a bad posture whilst using the laptop. So that's the only drawback, something that you need to pay careful attention to if you are working with using a laptop. So that's the downside of it. But I do prefer my laptop. Some persons would prefer having a desktop. Another thing is that you need a keyboard. So there are wireless keyboards. So if you have a wireless keyboard, bear in mind that you need to have backup batteries. So when those batteries are gone, you do have proper backup so that you can get your work done, and you're not left in a situation where you're in the middle of a meeting, with clients or with your teammates, and then for some reason your keyboard, the battery has died, it's gone, you can no longer type, communicate, or whatever it is you were doing at the moment. So just always ensure that anything that you're using with regards to work, that you have your backup items. So make sure you do have your backup. Another must-have is a proper webcam. Now, when I started off my business, for instance, I remember my first 2 meetings, I just used my laptop and the quality of the video was extremely poor. And it was then I realized I needed to invest in a webcam, because I could not continue that way and have to have meetings with other partners and with potential clients and customers, using this poor quality webcam. So that is definitely something that you need to invest in. I use a simple Logi webcam. I think Logi is the mark, Logi. I'm not saying that you should buy the same, but I find that the quality is very good, and I got it on Amazon. It's, you can get a webcam at a reasonable price. It doesn't cost too much, but you should, if you're working from home, or and even if you plan to work from home in the long term, you should invest in a quality webcam, because you will need it for your video conferencing. You will need it for meetings or whatever it may be. Get a quality webcam, definitely. And now the last thing I would mention in terms of the hardware is storage. Ensure that you have backup storage. Now, many of us, of course, we have our backup in the cloud, but I don't like having the backup in the cloud only. So what I would suggest as well is buying that external hard drive, so that you also have another backup on that external hard drive. You know, the more backup you have, the more comfortable and secure you feel. And I'm sure you could relate to it. I definitely can. Now, let's look at the software side of things. Some of the must-wear and must-have items for on the software side is, you'll be dealing with, you might have spreadsheets and documents to share, that sort of thing. Google Docs is something that I find that works well for documents and spreadsheets. I also use the Trello board. So the Trello board, you know, you can really, both you and your client can use that same interface. So you could share documents, you could share a questionnaire or whatever it be, and they could complete it, and then you can access it, and both of you can work from that same interface. So I like the Trello board as well. So definitely you need to think of software that you can use to facilitate, you know, the sharing of documents and spreadsheets, etc. And I also, in terms of software side, software that's relevant and appropriate for your use in terms of video conferencing. So there's Zoom, there's Skype, there's Google Chat. What sort of software do you need to use to facilitate your work? And it all depends on the purpose. So you find, for me, I have a lot of meetings. I sometimes have interviews. I have to speak with clients. So Zoom works well for me. And there are times I'm having lives and I have to broadcast straight to Facebook. So that too works well for me. I'm hosting online webinars. So Zoom is the platform for me to do those things. So it really depends on what your use is. You need to make a list of the purpose that you will, the purpose, the different purposes that you need it for, and then you can investigate and find the appropriate software that is relevant to your usage. Now, you also need to think about your broadband, and that was something I had to think about, and eventually get what you call a Wi-Fi range extender. I had to eventually get one, because for some reason, the way that my house is built, the signal strength, the Wi-Fi signal, the quality of the Wi-Fi signal strength is really poor. So that extender permits me, or allows me, to get really strong signal and strength anywhere that I am in the house. So you really do need to think about that. Think about your broadband signal. I remember once I was doing an interview with someone, and their Wi-Fi signal was very, very poor, and we couldn't continue with the interview, and then we had to re-record it at another time. So you do need to take that into consideration if you're working from home, and especially if you're working from home in a situation where you regularly need to talk with your teammates or your customers or potential clients. Then, and you regularly use the internet, you know, to do research and to share documents. You need to think about your Wi-Fi strength and signal. And then the last thing I'll mention, and I could talk about many more, but these are some of the basic must-haves, is a noise canceling headphone. So if you're working from home and sometimes it's quite noisy, if you have lots of children around, or maybe your husband might be outside mowing the lawn and you need to work, you could put those noise canceling headphones on. Or perhaps you live close to a train station or close to the highway where you hear the constant traffic. And even though you were to shut the windows, you could still hear that faint song of the traffic. So the noise canceling headphones do work quite well. I don't have a pair, but I've recently put a pair in my Amazon box, because at times I think I would need to put it on with the kids, even though they're downstairs, you know, to cancel out that noise so that I can focus on the deep work that I'm working on. Right. So I can mention many, many more items, but these are some of the must-have items that you need to have when working for home. Another thing that you can have, it may not be a must-have for someone, but at least for me, I find it really good is a whiteboard. So I tend to write key things I need to remember, my post-its or whatever. I put that on the whiteboard. It helps me in being remaining alert, remaining aware of some of the things that I need to keep on top of for the week, or things that I need to get done that are must do's on my list, or whatever the case may be. But I find that having a whiteboard is quite handy for me. So what about you? What are some of your must-have items aside from those that I've mentioned? That's probably a must-have item for you in terms of your line of work. And feel free to mention it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. So thank you for listening. If you did watch to the end, thank you very much for watching to the end. And look out for the next episode. I think we will be talking about safeguarding your mental health. That's a very important one, working from home. That will be our topic for our next episode. I want to thank you for watching. If you ever want to know more about me and what I do, hop over to my website, www.mttrainingenterpriseslimited.com. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.